Hey guys, and welcome back to Jessin Reads Romance. I'm Jessin, and today we're going to be talking about the Goodreads Choice Awards for 2020. And it's only the initial round of nominees, and it gets more exciting after this because we have a lot of write-ins, but I definitely want to talk about what Goodreads has come up with in the category of romance because I usually have an issue with it. So I haven't looked at the Goodreads Choice Awards yet, like the nominees that are presented, the initial ones for the first round picks. I have not looked at it yet, and I think I have a couple predictions. One, there's going to be women's fiction that's going to be in the romance category, and it will probably drive me insane. I hate it, and I know that they have a fiction category in the Goodreads Choice Awards, but when are they going to get women's fiction so that they can have a place to be nominated in and not in romance? That's a whole nother discussion. I'll be talking about some of those issues with Goodreads in general at the end of this video because we all know that Goodreads is quite problematic. And update your dang website, Goodreads, please. Thank you. All right, so I just opened up my app and it says Best Books of 2020. Vote in the opening round, and the round closes in 12 days. Then we have the semifinal round and then the final round. Now, during this round, you can submit some books to be nominees, which I'm very excited for. Okay, I mean... Oh, okay. We didn't even, yes, of course. So nominees on your shelf. I'm looking at that right now. So nominees on your shelf, one to watch, and A Rogue of One's Own. Ironically, I gave both of these books 2 stars. So it's not looking great for me personally for this round. So let's just go vote in the opening round. And yes, fiction, American Dirt. Let's not win that. Okay, we're not voting in fiction because I don't read fiction. Let's go to romance. Okay. Oh, Take a Hint, Dani Brown. Okay, so the first one that I'm seeing is Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. I love Talia Hibbert. I think she's wonderful. She's amazing. And I really love Take a Hint, Dani Brown. I think that it had good representation in it of LGBTQ characters. Dani is bisexual. And she also had a Muslim hero, Zafir, and both the characters are black. So anyway, that's promising. Something to talk about. I have not read Something to Talk About. Is it weird to say that I don't normally like reading, I don't want to say mainstream, but LGBTQ romances that come out with big pubs in romance? I just find that I like indie romances better for the queer community. I don't know. So I just was not feeling Something to Talk About. It wasn't something that I really wanted to read, so I have not read that one. In a Holidays. So another thing is that I feel like there are some popular authors that are going to appear on this list no matter what. No matter if their book is really not their best, they're going to appear on the Goodreads Choice Awards, and that definitely bothers me because even if one of my favorite authors is coming out with a book, I'm not going to like every single book that they put out. It's just impossible for me to like every single thing that they put out. Some of my favorite authors have written some 3 stars for me, and it just did not, it fell flat, and that's okay. But there are people who like really just stick by the author no matter what they read, and yeah, these definitely end up on the list. So In a Holidays, I've not read that one. Actually, I think Jess from Peace Love Books is currently reading In a Holidays or about to read In a Holidays. I didn't go for it because I was very disappointed in Once in a Blue Moon, or Twice in a Blue Moon, not Once in a Blue Moon, Twice in a Blue Moon, and The Honey Don't List. Both of those books fell extremely flat for me. I just did not like them, and they were women's fiction in my mind. Both of those were categorically women's fiction. I did not like them, so when I saw In a Holidays on NetGalley, I just didn't even bother to request it because Christina Lauren is kind of on my like, you're on pause right now list. She needs to wow me. They need to wow me with their next romance that they come out with. It might be In a Holidays, I don't know. Also, just holiday romances, I wasn't going to really read holiday romances this year, so anyway. Boyfriend Material, I feel like that was another popular romance that was making its rounds. I had it on my list, but I never got to it, so I don't even know if it's good or not. I have seen some people say that it was really cute, but other than that, it's the only thing I know about Boyfriend Material. That, I think it's a fake relationship too, which is fun, but again, I just didn't feel a need to read Boyfriend Material. There was other authors that I was more interested in for romances. And A Rogue of One's Own. I had lots of issues with this book, and I definitely am feeling like this is the token strong woman book in this category. Like, these are suffragettes. We're going to put this book on here because suffragette movement and women power, and I love all of that, but this is not the best representation of that sort of romance to me. I think a lot of other authors do it better. Personally, this was a 2-star for me. I originally had rated it a 3.5, dropped it down because I saw a lot of Indian reviewers say that they had major issues with this book. I obviously didn't catch it the first time that I read this book because I'm not familiar with every single aspect of the Hindu religion, and they caught it, and it just, I just haven't even seen the author address it at all, so that's interesting. In 5 years, I've seen this book, but I literally know nobody personally that I've seen review this book. I saw it come out, and nobody that I know has reviewed it, or I haven't watched anybody's reviews of it. If you have reviewed it and I haven't seen your review, then I just didn't watch it because I know nothing about this book. I can't even tell you. Beach Read by Emily Henry. I think that this one straddles the line between women's fiction and romance. I have not read it, but from what I've heard from other people is it does straddle the line between women's fiction and romance. Some people are like, I would definitely consider it a romance, and some people are like, feels more like women fiction. So I can't for sure say that it is or it's not, but it was one of the popular big pub darlings that was pushed out during the summer, so not surprised. Definitely not surprised to see Jasmine Guillory on here. Party of Two by Jasmine Guillory. I've read one book by Jasmine Guillory. It was okay for me, and I feel like she pops up on, this is one of the authors that I kind of expected to be on this list. I feel like she pops up on the Choice Awards and suggested recommended books for like all the lists, every BuzzFeed, Oprah list that's Jasmine Guillory's on there, and it's more of like a personal issue with the author for me. I just don't love how she tends to distance herself from the romance community, kind of like setting herself like above romance, like, I don't really write in the romance genre, I think I'm different than the romance genre, and that's just another way of saying like I'm ashamed and I don't want to be associated with romance because ew, romance, and it's just like a lesser version of literature, and I write a better version of literature, and I don't like that attitude, so I just don't read Jasmine Guillory. And The Happy Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez, first 50% of that book was like 5-star read for me. The second half fell flat for me, but I know that a lot of people loved it, so I think the only 2 so far that I agree with being on this list is Take a Hint, Dani Brown, and The Happy Ever After playlist. Personally, those are 2 that I've read. I really love Take a Hint, Dani Brown. I semi-loved The Happy Ever After playlist. I think Abby Jimenez definitely has really good storytelling ability. It's just the way she wraps things up just does not work for me in both books, in The Friend Zone and in The Happy Ever After playlist. I think that it starts to fizzle toward the end. And okay. The Two Lives of Lydia Bird by Josie Silver. I haven't heard anything about this book, actually. I can't tell you what it's about. I maybe have seen this cover around. Again, I think I'm kind of gravitating away from illustrated covers with cartoon figures on it. Now, I'm making the distinction because illustrated covers, it's kind of like graphic design covers is a very broad category, but the trend of the cartoon characters that you're usually kind of like faceless, that is also on the switch right below it, those kind of covers I'm kind of gravitating away towards, because I feel like a lot of women's fiction are kind of being like snuck into the romance category via that type of marketing. So yeah, I don't know. I've seen it, wasn't interested in reading it. The Switch, I still have not read The Flat Share, so I did not read The Switch. I hope it's good. If you've read it and you loved it, please let me know. I think I'm going to be doing a reading vlog with The Flat Share. Someone suggested I do a part 2 for roommate romances, because there are a lot of roommate romances and I tend to really love it because forced proximity is just golden, a golden trope in romance, so I really love it. The Switch, I don't know anything about it because I wanted to read The Flat Share first. You Had Me at Ola by Alexis Daria. Excited to see that one on there. I really enjoyed it. I don't know if I would say it's like one of the best books that I've read in 2020, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was different. I liked the incorporation of the scenes that they were actually acting out in the book and how it kind of like reflected the progression of their relationship and kind of brought them closer. As the characters got closer, they got closer. So I really did enjoy that aspect of it. And I also enjoyed that the hero was the one with like anxiety and had like some PTSD, which normally you see those traits in a heroine. Like the heroine's trying to overcome like some sort of anxiety, but for heroes, I don't see very many heroes that have anxiety like that. So I thought that was fun. Okay, From Blood and Ash by Jennifer Armentrout. I'm not surprised to see it on there. I think that she has a huge following that are incredibly loyal to her. She has an incredibly loyal fan base. It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me, and I haven't read anything else by her, so I really don't have anything else to say besides I didn't enjoy that one. Now, One to Watch by Kate Stayman London. I wholeheartedly disagree and reject this being on this list. It is 100% a women's fiction novel. This is not a romance. This is a women's fiction about the heroine and her journey of self-discovery and acceptance, and she just so happens to have a slight romance in the background with a hero. She has a ton of romance with like a bunch of people, and then we have the hero at the end, and it's kind of just like bleh. This should not be on the romance category list at all. It should be in women's fiction. I actually, when I went into Barnes & Noble the other day, because I just like miss walking around, and so I went into Barnes & Noble and I saw that on the shelf, and I almost picked it up and put it somewhere else, but I would never do that because, you know, someone stocks the shelves and obviously it's being marketed as a romance, so it's not their fault. It's not the employee's fault that this is mismarketed, but yeah, I have a problem with that. And I also feel like it's on the list because it's like, oh my God, we have a plus size heroine on there. And even though I didn't super enjoy, spoiler alert, by Olivia Dade, if you're going to have like a token fat character and fat character on cover romance to be put on here, like if you're just like trying to check all your P's and Q's and have one from each category that you think has been underrepresented in these awards, which they have, which is why we should broaden the categories. Anyway, spoiler alert should have been on here way before One to Watch, because at least spoiler alert is a romance and One to Watch is not. And then Regretting You. Colleen Hoover, I don't know about this. I've read one Colleen Hoover in my life. What was the Colleen Hoover, I had to think about it. The Colleen Hoover book that I read was It Ends With Us. And so I have a little bit of trust issues with, I said issues, really weird. Anyway, I have a little bit of trust issues with reading Colleen Hoover, because a lot of people told me, please read It Ends With Us. It's a wonderful romance. I hope you put it on the podcast. I'm like, okay, I've never read Colleen Hoover. I've seen her a lot. I read It Ends With Us and I was like, this is a 5-star read for me, but it is women's fiction. I thought that book in particular was women's fiction, and it was beautiful and I loved it and I gave it 5 stars. So I'm like, it's women's fiction. The hero that she is with at the end, there's barely any romance with them in the present day at all. She's with someone else. Anyway, so I've been kind of scared to start another Colleen Hoover book. And also another one of her books ended up on the last year's Goodreads Choice Awards, and it was voted in by her fans. And it wasn't a romance, and she even said, this is not a romance, guys. This is a psychological thriller that I wrote. So it's not categorically romance, but thank you for voting me in. So the author acknowledged that this book shouldn't have been category romance nominee for Goodreads Choice Awards, and that brings me to the next part of my discussion. So I am going to vote for, well, no, I'm probably going to write one in. I don't know. I'm definitely going to write, I'm going to write in my vote because you can enter a book that's published in 2020. So I'm going to do that, but I got to think about which one that I want to write it in. So let's talk about what's got to change with Goodreads. First of all, there's a couple different problems and I don't know how to fix some of them, but definitely Goodreads as a whole just needs to be overhauled. The whole way that people can rate books on Goodreads is very interesting. I don't like how you can rate a book that hasn't even been out yet. Like, that's kind of ridiculous. The whole website just needs to be overhauled. Someone needs to update it, but I think that Amazon just doesn't even want to fiddle with it at all. The Goodreads Choice Awards, the categories that they have available for it are so limiting, and it's honestly so unfair to indie authors. They do not stand a chance with these big pub books that have a far broader reach, especially in marketing. Even if these books are not like the greatest, they reach far more people because of their marketing, because they're able to be put on the shelves in every single store that you can imagine, in Target, in Barnes & Noble, in Books A Million, in all the indie shops. And it's just, there's so many books out there, so many books, especially romance books is a huge category. And I think that having just a plain romance category for the Goodreads Choice Awards is limiting us so much. It's ridiculous. So first of all, I think that there needs to be a women's fiction category. Like, not just fiction, there needs to be women's fiction. In particular, because publishers get confused or take advantage of the power of romance and the appeal of romance to market their women's fiction books in romance. And I'm sick of it. I don't like being lied to. Anyway, have a women's fiction section where people can submit all their women's fiction books in there and vote on that. I don't want to vote on it. You read those books and you vote on them. Second, I think I would prefer there to be an indie romance category, because even if we broaden out the categories in romance and do them by subgenre, like historical and fantasy and paranormal, and if we like do rom-com, if we broaden those out, I still think that indies would not get a chance to shine even if we separate them out in the main subgenres of romance. So I think that indie romance needs a category in, I don't know, every single category, every single one. I don't know about like fiction indies and all that. I don't know how many there are, if that's like a huge, they also have problems. I'm sure that indies everywhere have problems, the same problems as romance, but romance is such a saturated market. So indies need their own category. I hope that a lot of indies get written in for nominations. I'm just crossing my fingers for the next round for there to be like some more interesting books, because hardly any of the books that I think were my favorite reads in 2020 appeared on this list. Like, Take a Hint, Dani Brown is the only one that I was like, I actually love this book. And that's the only one that's on this list. Of course, I have to take into consideration that not everybody is going to love what I love, and I don't love what everybody else loves all the time. So there is that. So let's talk about the write-in votes. I did mention how Verity got nominated last year by Colleen Hoover because she has such a wide fan base that they all band together and said, hey, let's all go submit Verity to be a nominee and let's all go vote on her. So this is not uncommon, and I've already seen it today in some private Facebook groups for authors. Like, their authors have their private like fan Facebook groups that you have to actually join on there. And I've seen so many posts today, even before I looked at this, that said like, hey, let's go submit this book. Let's go submit this book and everybody go vote on this. And sometimes that can be a problem because of what happened with Verity. It wasn't even a category romance and it got nominated for it, which means that it was a missed opportunity for another romance to have some spotlight shown on it. So I don't agree with that. And I feel like it's easier for an author with a huge fan base, even in the indie community, to just be like, hey, everyone go vote on my book. And it's like whenever an author tells you to do that, a lot of readers feel compelled, like, yes, I'm going to go vote on that, even if it wasn't like your favorite book by them. I really try not to play favorites whenever I rate a book, by an author that I really enjoy. I have rated some books this year by favorite authors, and I haven't rated them great because I'm like, I've read better by them, and I kind of do compare it like within their backlist. Was this better than one of my favorite books that they've written? No, so I can't technically give it a 5 stars because I enjoyed one way more than the other. So I wouldn't be nominating a book that I felt so, even if it's by an author that I love. But a lot of people don't have that problem. They just want to see an author that they love and they support on this list no matter what. So if they only publish one book that year and it's not even their favorite book by that author at all, they'll still go band together and they'll go vote in that book. And indie authors who don't have that reach, who can't rally as many fans as others, just don't have the opportunity to shine. So I don't know how that really should be dealt with in the write-in votes. Yeah, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Goodreads is obviously a broken system, period, let alone how the Goodreads Choice Awards operates. So if you have any ideas about how to fix Goodreads or the Goodreads Choice Awards, please let me know in the comments, because it's kind of just like, like, what do you do? What do you do with this? I do hope to see some more interesting options for round 2. I'm sure that some of the romances and non-romances that are on the list already will make it into round 2, but I do hope we see some other ones. Some other very popular romances within the romance community that I think I'm like, why are they not there? These books that I honestly have not seen anybody really talk about or have made this list, and there's been so many other books that the community as a whole have been raving about, and I'm just like, where are those? We'll see, and I'm gonna think about which book that I want to submit for the write-ins. Let me know in the comments if you have a book that you think that should be featured in the next round in the write-ins. I would love to know. Would love to know which you would choose for the Goodreads Choice Awards and romance. Sadly, we only have one category, but if you had to choose one book out of the tons of books that you've read this year, which one would you submit? Let me know in the comments. All right, guys, that's all that I have for you today. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and if you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure that you subscribe to be notified on any future videos that I do. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, life's better with a little HEA. Bye, guys.